Welcome back. You're now watching the political segment on The Weekend Show. With less than 120 days to the 2023 elections, most of the politicians running for office now feel entitled as a right to office. No one is really speaking on some of the issues like the fact that we still have recurring fuel scarcity. No one is really speaking about peaceful conduct during the election. However, young people are being scorned at and they're being told that all they have is social media and they have no structure. So today we will be talking about the role of technology and the youth in the 2023 elections. And joining us we have
Osogo Torkoba. Good morning, welcome to the show.
Good morning, thank you for having me.
And of course we also have Cynthia Mbamalu. Good morning.
Good morning.
Nice to have you back.
Happy belated birthday, Cynthia.
Thank you, Andy.
A cake is meant to be on this table.
I would love that.
Just before the segment started, we were having this conversation about how 2019 we're all on the streets, not too young to run, internet streets everywhere, lobbying and advocacy. One of the best advocacy campaigns I've seen in Nigeria since I got in activism. However, what are the facts and figures? Do we now have more young people participating in politics, running for office, as compared to 2015 and 2019, or has the number reduced? What's the status?
Well, sadly, first to say it's nice. 2018, 2019, it was quite inspiring to be a young Nigerian at the time. We saw young people march several times, one to demand the passage of the bill to reduce the age to contest office, and finally in 2018 to demand for the president to assent. And what that did when the president assented to the bill was to reduce the age to contest for elections. So in 2019 elections, we had about 34% youth candidates in that elections. And one of the things we were expecting or hoping for was that 2023 would have more young people contesting. However, what data is showing with the INEC's, the candidates list released by INEC, is that we actually have a decline on youth candidates. So currently we have, based on the data from INEC, 28.6% youth candidates in the election. So if you compare that to 2019 when we had 34%, you could see there's a decline. And there are several factors that contributed to that decline. However, the only light within that space is within this 28.6%, we have 43% that are under 30 years old. So those between 25 to 30 who are direct beneficiaries of the age reduction bill, so of the Not Too Young to Run bill. Those are the numbers that will be contested. So we have an increase in number of under 30-year-olds running, but if you do the general under 35-year-olds running for elections, there's a decline. And honestly, I'm glad you talked about the issues around the fact that the campaigns have started, but we're not seeing issues take over the space. You know, this is when we're meant to. The idea of increasing the timeline for campaigns in the new Electoral Act was to give candidates, to give political parties the time to sufficiently campaign on issues, to interact with the voters, so that voters and citizens get to know who these candidates are, what they stand for, what their plans are, and how they can engage. But unfortunately, they are misusing this increase in timeline. And why I talked about issue was because if you take it back to the party primaries, we remember that the party primaries was almost highest bidder competition, right? So what the party primaries did was basically put young people at a disadvantage. Before the primaries, we had high youth aspiration. If you remember, post the EndSARS, there was an increase in youth interest in the electoral process. So we saw younger people going to register as voters and young people aspiring to run for office across board. However, the party primaries process, beyond being the high cost of nomination that kept a lot of young people out of the process, was also the fact that most of the party primaries were conducted, we had what we call shoddy procedures. So lack of transparency, lack of credibility, and parties and big power bags or money bags, and the big powers within the parties determining who makes it to the candidates list. So the party primaries in itself were really were conducted in such a way that puts young people at a disadvantage. So while you had high aspiration amongst young people post the primaries, the numbers dropped. People are still going to court. You know, party, there are still cases in court from the primaries. So you can see that even when it came to primaries, if you follow primaries in other countries, there are debates to primary. If you follow the US, for instance, you even follow the debates to know who would win the party tickets for respective parties. But we were not having debates on issues even at the point of primaries. So the conversations around primaries were who had the monies. You remember people were even going after delegates when they lost to hunt them down to repay them the monies they had paid them, you know. So you can see that at the point of primaries, issues were not even the determining factor. It was not about capacity or competence or character. It was about who had the money, who had the connections or the right godfather standing behind them. And for younger people, it was not a fair game. So there was no equal competition. So from what you saw from party primaries, we're not surprised that going into the campaigns, issues are not the determining factor. And it's unfortunate the numbers reduced. And interestingly, data shows that the parties that have more young people are, and it's not the APC or the PDP, the ADC, the ADP, Labour parties amongst the parties, these top 6 parties that had youth candidates, AA and some of the other parties were among the top 6 parties that had an increase in young youth candidates, rather, or that were favorable to young people. So you can also say that amongst the so-called big 2, they did not provide an equal playing ground or a fair chance for younger people to emerge. So as we move into the elections, there is a high chance that the young candidates would have to fight tough, because you know campaign still is not about issues, there's still money conversation. But one of our hope is that we have an increase in youth voters, that youth voters begin to identify young candidates across parties. I don't believe, for this election, honestly, I'm not looking for party loyalty. I'm looking for loyalty to the nation. Meaning, let's identify individuals who have the right capacities and competencies across different parties and vote for them, because it's not just the president or the governorship we have. We have state assemblies where we need people with capacity to get into. We have House of Representatives, and interestingly, we have more young people contesting in the state assemblies and in the House. And for young people, honestly, if we can vote in younger candidates at the state assemblies and House of Reps, I can tell that Nigerians will begin to win in the next elections.
Okay, now let's talk about the internet. Asogo, with the upcoming elections, how does the internet influence voters, influence young people, as she mentioned, and generally public opinion?
Yeah, interestingly, just like she mentioned, right, the role of technology is going to be very paramount in these elections. With the introduction of the BVAS and the IRF by INEC, and interestingly, this is not the first time technology will be used in our elections. We've used technology during the smart card reader, which was also an introduction into the 2015 general elections, which improved our elections to a point, right? So in 2023, technology is going to be very paramount and very still play very key roles in improving the transparency and credibility of the elections, because with the introduction of the BVAS, it is going to serve as the only device that will be used for accreditation of voters in these elections. That means that there's not going to be manual accreditation of voters as we've had in the past, right? That is to an extent going to improve the transparency of the elections. And then it's a two-way thing, because apart from accreditation, it has to verify your fingerprint and authenticate your face. So it has to show that the PVC you're holding actually belongs to you, and then you're the one that is coming to vote in the elections, right? And then the IRF, the INEC result viewing portal, right, is also going to improve the process in the sense that it's going to be transparent. People are able to see the result from the polling units as they're coming into the INEC database. So to a large extent, it's going to improve the transparency and build citizens' confidence in INEC and the electoral process itself.
Let's talk about Vote Not Fight. I remember, so in 2014, 2015, I started something called the Voting Peace Initiative, because I realized then people were just Buhari or Goodluck. No one cared about the lives of people. Yes. And every election cycle, people die.
Of course.
It's the harsh reality.
Yeah.
Right now, we've seen people come to sign peace accord, but we are still seeing people being abducted when they go to have consultation meetings. It happened with Labour Party, it happened with PDP, it's happened with APC. People are still being killed at this point in time. What is Vote Not Fight's position on this, and what are you doing to encourage peaceful election in this cycle?
Now, we can talk about peaceful elections without inclusion of the young people, because based on the data that we have, these people constitute like about 76% of the entire voters for these elections, right? In 2019, we had just 30% of young people from 18 to 34 who came out to vote in that elections, and that 30% also constituted 51% of the entire voter turnout of that elections. Now imagine 60% of young people coming out to vote in 2023 elections, right? So for peaceful elections, young people have very key roles to play, because these are the students and the young people that these politicians go to use as thugs and people who go and disrupt the process, the electoral process, right? So if young people take that upon themselves as patriotic citizens to say, I am for peace and not for fight. I am for vote and not fight. Election will be war, right? So let's follow the issues. Let's encourage politicians to speak to issues and not going to pick up young people on the streets and then give them guns, give them drugs, and give them a whole lot of things for them to go and influence the process. If the politicians are sure of the issues they're bringing to the table, young people are very sane to dissect these issues and see who has capacity to tackle these things. So if we must have peaceful elections in 2023, young people must be included in all the stakes of the election, of the electoral process, right? So peaceful elections and vote not fight, you cannot separate them, because for us to have a peaceful elections, first of all, the politicians must have a clear understanding that they need to speak to issues and not to put people against each other in terms of religion, tribes, and all those things that divide us. Young people must come understand their numbers, that they have their strength in their numbers, and come with these numbers to change the narratives. Let's support young candidates, just like you mentioned. It is very, very important. If we have the numbers that we have now, and we're still not making impact as young persons in trying to choose leaders who are young people to represent us, it means we don't have and we don't understand our strength, that is our strength in our numbers. So we need to use these figures, and then not just the fact that we went out to register. We must ensure that we also go out to collect our PVCs, right? Because that is the only thing that guarantees you a vote at a polling unit. Without your PVC, you have no business doing at the polling unit. If you're not a security official, the media, the ad hoc staff. So every young person must ensure that if I stepped out to do my registration through the CVR, I must ensure that I also get my PVC, because that is the only thing that will allow you to vote. And if you get this PVC, you must also ensure that you go out on election day to vote. Because if you get the PVCs and stick them in your pocket or go to play balls on the pitch, your elections are still not going to count. And elections don't happen on social media. We must also understand that fact. We must go to our polling units and ensure that we cast our vote and protect our votes.
Cynthia, it's not news that young people thrive on social media. So there's been a lot of back and forth by young people on social media, particularly when it comes to the PDP presidential candidate, the APC presidential candidate, and the Labour Party candidate. Now, what would you say is the right way for them to campaign for their own candidate, their chosen candidate, because it's getting, or it's already volatile, particularly on Twitter. So what would you say to those involved?
You know, the use of the term violence. Exactly. It's interesting. You know, I was discussing with a colleague and I said, I'm actually excited to see the level of engagement on social media by young people around elections. It's good. Because democracy is about the people. It's about conversations and debates, and we agree to disagree to agree subsequently, right? And so I understand the interest and the passion. But one thing as a younger Nigerian, and especially for the Gen Z who are just coming up, you know, I'm millennial, so I always say I'm crossing over soon, you know. It just to it's an encouragement that we need to play politics differently from the older folks, right? The reason we're where we are is because we've over time allowed our political system to be devoid of values, devoid of ideology. You just have individuals who engage just because they want to have access to power, and to use power to the detriment of the people, and not necessarily to favor or to the benefits of the people. And we need to play politics differently. Now, politics is about conversations and debates on issues. And what we want to see younger people do on social media, as we use this powerful tool that we have, is to begin to engage candidates on what their plans are, regardless of our love for whichever. So whether you're articulating or batified or obedient, whatever line you're towing, you need to ask your candidates, whoever you're supporting, what is your plan for young Nigerians, for instance? These are the things that young Nigerians care about, be it enabling environments for economic development, be it technology, be it even security, education. What power. Think about those things and say, on this issue, what is your position on these issues? Let us know this is your 1, 2, 3 point agenda, so that post-elections, if you win or when you win, we can hold you accountable on these issues. So what we want to see, honestly, for younger people, we have a powerful tool. We need to promote a value-based politics. Politics of values driven by ideology, based on the things we care about, because the next elections is about the soul of this country, right? If we lose it this time around, I don't know what is left for the country. So we need to get it right, but we need to get it right through electing the leaders that can represent our interest in government. So for young people, honestly, I love the activism on social media. I love the passion at which we engage and fight for or against individual candidates or parties. But we need to change the game. We need to play politics differently. Let us show the older folks why we are younger people and why we engage differently, or how we can engage differently. So let's start the debates online. And I was on another platform and I talked about when we move towards the presidential debate. Honestly, as Nigerians, we need to make demands that candidates come to debate. If people don't come to debate, let's vote them out, because it means you don't care about us. The idea of debate is that it provides a platform for you to come and respond to questions that have come from the people, because most times the questions from debate are collated generally, right? And it means you are willing to come and listen, share your ideas to the people, and that you respect our opinion, you respect us as a people to come to debate. We need to start promoting that culture of debate. And as we move to the next elections, as young people, let's be clear on our demands. What do we want for different sectors? What do we want as a youth agenda, right? Who do we want to vote for? Who are those open to listen to us? Who are those looking for opportunities and platforms to engage with us? Who are those who are willing to show up and debate and let us know what their plans are across board? Because I know there'll be presidential debates, and I'm sure there'll be other levels of debate, either for governorship in some states or even for senatorial and what have you. We need to start asking people to take us responsive, take us as serious citizens. You know, you have that responsibility to show up and debate. So for me, those are things that are important. I think the other aspect for us is, as young people, the opportunities in the new electoral law. He talked about technology. That is going to play an important role. We need to start educating our peers on what role technology will be playing. Without the BVAS accrediting, you cannot vote. So technology is going to play an important role. There is no manual. In fact, the law is clear. If the BVAS, if the technology does not work, if it malfunctions, elections in that polling needs to be suspended till the next day for 24 hours. And if the number of voters in that region will not substantially affect the outcome, elections will not hold. Meaning we need to start making demands on INEC that BVAS technology will be efficiently deployed across every polling unit. And then the transmission, when he talked about IREV, I'm so happy he highlighted that, because what my brother here is saying about IREV is that as voters, we now have a tool. On elections day you vote, you can go on the INEX result portal, create an account. In fact, I would advise you go now and create an account, because on election day there'll be a lot of traffic and it may cause delay. Just go, create an account, have your password. On elections day, as young people, we have access to technology. Go online, download your polling unit level results, because you can even begin to download, and you and your friends across board can start collating the results for your polling units for the parties you care about. So INEC is deploying both the BVAS and the IREV portal to promote transparency of the process and promote access to information on elections day. And as young people, we have that power and that access to technology to ensure that we are promoting oversight over the process by how we educate our peers in the period leading to the elections, how we get people to get their PVCs to vote, and how we educate people on how they can use this technology to demand accountability on elections day.
Cynthia, I want to say thank you so much for that, because you've answered my next question was along the lines of this electoral act. How can people understand it better? And so I'll use the next 30 seconds to charge INEC and the federal government. Now, we noticed in the last 2 election cycles that a night or a day before elections were postponed. And so while people talk about voter apathy, in some cases it's the inefficiency of the government and INEC to prepare adequately for the election, which makes the election being postponed. Now, when young people take leave from work and travel to their states and their voting units to vote, and this election is postponed, it is a deliberate way of disenfranchising the people, because most people don't have the funds anymore anymore to travel and come back.
back.
Their offices won't let them do that. And at the end of the day, they say young people are not voting, urban people are not voting. Interestingly, a lot of people have now started moving their voting centers to the cities where they live in. And so we want to charge INEC and the federal government. You now have a longer window to prepare for elections. And so we have no excuse not to be ready for elections on the day of the elections, because it's the right of the people to vote. And we're glad Cynthia and Tokuma are advising and enlightening Nigerians about the Electoral Act. So it's extremely important that INEC is ready as at the date of the election, and the federal government also ensures that they have all they need to have to be ready for the election.
Yeah. Okay. So, yeah, I want to go back to the whole social media thing, because I'm really active on Twitter, and what I see,
It's quite
I keep
violent, isn't it?
it's a whole lot. It's a whole lot. Yes, like Cynthia said, I appreciate the enthusiasm, you know, to actually talk about this and spread awareness and all of that, but they should calm down a bit. Yes, that sort of
this
thing.
is actually the season.
Yeah,
Right?
some have actually come out to say that a particular party's candidate just has social media
Followers.
voters, social media supporters and all of that. And on the D-Day, it will not be reflected. If we say social media has this amount of impact, what do you have to say about those that are saying this?
Now, the truth is, we cannot just write off anybody in these elections at this point, right? The structures are changing, narratives are changing. Like, a lot of young people are becoming more aware based on the social platforms they have at their hands, right? But we also need to tap the positivity of the social media platforms, right? We need to promote as awareness on how people also need to understand how to vote. The election day procedure, like, if you get to a polling unit, what do you need to do, like, as a voter? So the entire process of accreditation and all that. So we also need to take the opportunity of this to educate people on the new Electoral Act. A lot of people don't know what is contained in the Electoral Act. But if young people go on their own to dissect these things and use the knowledge they have to read and understand throughout this electoral process, is going to, the Electoral Act, is going to also influence or inform their decision on the elections. If you take, for instance, the Ekiti and Osun elections were the first elections that were used to conduct with the new Electoral Act. And we could all see the outcome of those elections, right? In Ekiti, for instance, the APC won the governorship elections. It was the STP that came second, not even the PDP, right? Because it shows that people want to go for character. People want to go, and not just political platforms. So if anybody feels that social media is not working or doesn't have influence, of course, for these elections, social media and technology are going to play very key roles in informing citizens and in trying to also increase the transparency and credibility of the elections. So we cannot write off social media at this point, but we can only encourage young people to use it, the positivity aspect of it, and not the negativity. We should not spread false information, no misinformation and all that. We should not, as we should focus on issues, no character defamation of any politician, right? If anyone brings issues to you, dissect the issues and ask them questions. How do you intend to solve these issues? We've heard people come to us, I will do this, I will do this, I will do this. Now let's ask how. Let's deviate from I will do this. How do you intend to solve these issues, right? We have issues, a whole lot of issues in Nigeria, from employment, job creation, health, agriculture, insecurity, a whole lot of issues. So we should not focus on how healthy this candidate is or what is he doing. Is he handsome? Is he this? But let's focus on what these people, what issues are they willing to solve with the campaigns that have been going on, right? And now the campaigns have started. We are seeing as in pockets of violence everywhere. And this is just the beginning of the campaigns. Young people need to understand that we don't need violence in these elections. Violence would not count, or it doesn't have a space in these elections. We must ensure that we engage our political class with issues, right? Let them speak to the issues that affect us as people, as young people. Now, if you check the number of registrants in the CVR that just ended, 40% of those people are students. Now, if students could come out to register during the CVR and we had a strike of 8 months, are they not willing to change the narrative for themselves or make things better for themselves, right? So we need to understand, like, tell people, like, okay, this is the strength you have. This is where you can put your strength into the positivity, and let's change this narrative for the better. So just like she said, that technology is very, very key in these elections. We cannot write that off, and we must give that to INEC, because they've been trying to improve the process at every point. The problem of our elections is our political class. If they are ready to change the narrative, we can have free, fair, and peaceful elections without anybody dying. And no one should die because I want to vote in an election.
Thank you very much. I'll let Cynthia have the last word in 1 minute, and these are 2 questions. Let us know what YIGA is doing for this election, and finally, let Nigerians know 3 things to pay attention to on the election day when they vote. What are 3 major things voters should focus on and ensure happens on the day of the election?
The first thing, I'll start with the 3 things. The first thing for voters is, as we have the power that when you vote, you can stay back and watch without causing chaos. So you stay back in some meters to watch the process and wait. So the first thing is to be around when they count the votes, because at the point of counting, we believe that at that point, when voters are around, it's difficult to manipulate. Stay around to be sure they count the votes and that the result for the polling unit is posted at your polling unit. The second is to ensure that the BVAS is used to take a picture of the polling unit result sheets from EC8A and upload it, because when they take the picture, that is what is uploaded on the iRev result. And the third thing for me on elections day is the most important: come out with your PVC and vote. Because if you don't come out to vote, all this noise and all these beautiful things we're doing online would amount to nothing. Yeah. So come out to vote. If you ask me to add the 4th, when you go home, download your result from the iRev. It's good everybody has a copy of their result, the result sheet, so that if people start questioning, we say, no, this is what we downloaded. Yes. And what YIGA is doing for us in this period of elections is continuous support to the young candidates that have emerged. There are plans we're having at different state levels and some regional conversations to provide some capacity development for young people, and also see opportunities that can connect them to promote their visibility, especially for the young women candidates, because there are just very few women who are running in these elections. And the other part is just working with citizens to promote oversight of the process. We believe that the process is transparent and credible, that we would all celebrate the outcome. But if the process is not transparent, people will not accept the outcome. So working with citizens to promote oversight of the process and to promote voter participation in the elections.
Thank you so much, Cynthia, and to our viewers at home. That's too much we can take on today's episode of The Weekend Show. You can follow us on social media at Weekend Show NG on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Interested in sponsoring adverts or placements on the show, the number will be put up on your screen. You can follow me on social media at Andy Madoki on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And you can follow Didi.
You can follow me on Instagram and Twitter at Didi_.
That's all for now. Do have a blessed week, and God bless.